Have you ever wondered what happens to a loyal dog after their best friend is gone? What if their grief looked like a mystery waiting to be solved? Today, we're diving into a story that explores just that, a tale of unwavering loyalty, a hidden secret, and a bond so strong not even death could break it. This is the story of Finn, the dog who walked into the sea. Our story begins in a quiet coastal town where the salty air carries whispers of old tales and the waves crash against the shore like a steady heartbeat. Here lived an artist, a man whose soul was as deep and vast as the ocean he painted every day. His constant companion, his shadow, and his muse was Finn, a border collie with eyes that held the wisdom of the tides and a coat as dark as a starless night. Together, they were a familiar sight. The artist with his easel planted in the sand, brush dancing across the canvas, and Finn lying patiently by his side, his gaze fixed on his beloved human. Their world was the cottage on the cliff, the winding path to the beach, and the endless horizon. They didn't need words. Their connection was woven into the fabric of sunrises and sunsets, a silent understanding shared between man and dog. But like the tide, life recedes. One day, the artist's brush stilled forever. The cottage grew quiet, the easel collected dust, and the vibrant canvases were left unfinished. The man who had captured the soul of the sea was gone, leaving behind a silence that was heavier than any storm. And in that silence, Finn was left alone, or so it seemed. The townspeople watched with heavy hearts as Finn's routine changed. The playful romps on the beach stopped. The joyful barks were replaced by a quiet solemnity. But one thing didn't change: his journey to the sea. Every single morning, just as the first blush of dawn painted the sky, Finn would leave the empty cottage. He'd walk the familiar path down to the shoreline, his paws leaving fleeting prints in the damp sand. He wouldn't run or play. He would simply walk to the water's edge where the waves gently lapped at his feet, and he would sit. For hours he'd stare out at the horizon, his intelligent eyes scanning the vast expanse of water as if he were waiting for a ship that would never come in, a figure that would never walk out of the waves. He was the dog who walked into the sea, a silent daily vigil that puzzled everyone who saw it. What was he looking for? What secret did he keep locked behind those soulful eyes? Months passed, and the artist's cottage, filled with memories and the lingering scent of turpentine, was finally sold. A young woman named Elara, seeking refuge from the noise of the city and a broken heart of her own, moved in. She was a writer, hoping the solitude of the coast would help her find her words again. On her first morning, as she watched the sunrise from her window, she saw him, a lone dog, a silhouette against the rising sun, walking with a purpose she couldn't understand, straight towards the water. She saw him again the next day, and the day after that. His ritual was as predictable as the tides. Curiosity piqued, Elara felt a pull towards this mysterious dog. She learned his name was Finn, and heard the town's sorrowful whispers about his lost master. They called his daily walk a sad habit, a symptom of a broken heart. But Elara saw something more. It wasn't just sadness in his posture, it was devotion. It was a mission. One morning, she decided she had to know more. She put on her boots, wrapped a scarf around her neck, and followed Finn from a distance as he made his pre-dawn journey. She watched as he reached his usual spot, sat with perfect stillness, and fixed his gaze on the endless blue. The wind whipped her hair, and the salty spray misted her face, but she stayed watching the watcher. It felt like she was trespassing on a sacred ceremony. As the sun climbed higher, Finn finally stirred, but instead of heading back to the cottage, he did something different. He turned and walked towards a cluster of jagged rocks, a part of the beach she hadn't explored yet. He nosed around the base of the largest rock, digging at the sand with a quiet intensity. Elara's heart pounded. This was it. This was the secret. She cautiously approached as Finn, having unearthed something, looked up at her. His tail gave a slow, tentative wag as if granting her permission. There, half buried in the sand, was a small, weathered wooden box. It was sealed with wax and wrapped in oilcloth to protect it from the elements. With trembling hands, Elara lifted it. It felt heavy, not just with weight, but with the significance of the moment. Back in the cottage, with Finn watching her every move, she carefully opened the box. The smell of old paper, sea salt, and something distinctly familiar filled the air. Inside, it wasn't treasure or gold. It was something far more precious. The box was filled with a collection of the artist's unfinished sketches. There were charcoal drawings of Finn capturing his every mood. There were watercolors of the sea in all its glory, stormy, calm, and sun-drenched, and at the very bottom, nestled beneath the drawings, was a letter. The envelope was old and soft, and on the front, in the artist's elegant script, were the words, "To whoever still believes in loyalty." Her hands shook as she unfolded the paper. The letter wasn't a sad goodbye, but a celebration of a life well lived. The artist wrote about his love for the sea, his passion for his art, and his profound bond with Finn. He explained that this spot by the rocks was their special place where they would sit together after a long day of painting, watching the world fade to blue. He knew his time was short, and his greatest fear was that his final, most important works, the sketches in the box, would be lost. He wrote, "Finn knows. He knows where my heart is buried. He was never just my dog. He was my partner, the keeper of my secrets. He will lead the right person here. He will wait for a soul who understands that love doesn't end. It simply changes form. He's not waiting for me to return from the sea. He's guarding our memories until he can share them." Tears streamed down Ilara's face as she looked at Finn, who rested his head on her lap. It all made sense. The daily walks weren't an act of hopeless grief, they were an act of profound purpose. Finn wasn't waiting, he was guarding. He was fulfilling his final promise to his master, protecting his legacy until someone worthy came along. He was a bridge between the past and the present, a furry, four-legged guardian of memories. From that day on, everything changed. Ilara began accompanying Finn on his morning walks. They would sit together by the rocks, watching the sunrise, a writer and a dog sharing a silent understanding. Inspired by the artist's story and Finn's unwavering devotion, Ilara's writer's block vanished. She began to write, not the fiction she had planned, but the true story of Finn, the artist, and the love that transcended time. She helped organize a local exhibition of the artist's recovered sketches. The townspeople who had only seen Finn's sadness now saw his strength and loyalty. They saw the artist not just as a painter who had passed, but as a man whose love was so powerful it guided his dog from beyond the grave. Finn's daily walk was no longer a symbol of loss, but a celebration of a bond that never ended. Ilara found her healing not in solitude but in connection, with a town, with the memory of an artist she'd never met, and most of all with a very special dog. Finn taught her that some bonds are eternal. They don't disappear, they just change form, waiting for a new heart to give them a new home. And sometimes, the greatest treasures aren't found in a chest of gold, but in a hidden box of sketches, revealed by a loyal friend who walks into the sea. Thank you so much for joining us on this emotional journey today. If Finn's story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more tales that celebrate the incredible spirit of animals. We'd love to hear your own stories of loyal companions in the comments below. Until next time, take care.